tonight, Israel orders more evacuations as the crisis in the Middle East deepens. More humanitarian aid reaches Gaza as Palestinian casualties mount. Tanks and troops massed on the border, ready to invade. Hundreds of Americans trapped in the territory, unable to get out.
This is on Hamas.
Israel intensifies bombing targets on 3 fronts, threatening to ignite a wider conflict.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tells troops it's do or die time as airstrikes intensify and broaden even further.
Also tonight, new U.S. military moves in the region amid growing threats from Iran and its allies in the region.
I'm Ian Lee near the Israel-Lebanon border, where tensions rise along with fears that this could become a second front in the war.
Here at home, Speaker soap opera. 3 weeks and counting, at least 9 Republicans now seeking the gavel. Plus, murder investigation, the latest on the death of a synagogue president in Detroit. Pacific storm, the new system set to drop temperatures and deep snow from Montana to the Dakotas. And later, it's an amazing puzzle made of corn with roots and miles of twists and turns in Minnesota that started out small and has now grown to 110 acres.
You've never gotten lost.
Haven't gotten lost.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening. Jerika is off. I'm Maurice DuBois. We begin once again tonight in the Middle East. For days now, an Israeli ground invasion of Gaza has appeared imminent following Hamas's deadly rampage 2 weeks ago. Today, Israeli warplanes took aim across the Palestinian territory. Targets in the occupied West Bank and Syria were also hit as the war with Hamas threatens to spiral into a wider conflict. In Iran, the country's foreign minister called the region, quote, a powder keg. In a major change, the USS Eisenhower, with its accompanying warships and fighter jets, was redirected to the Persian Gulf in response to the rising tensions in the region. Also today, 14 trucks carrying goods and medical supplies entered Gaza from Egypt. They are the second convoy of aid to arrive since Israel imposed a complete siege of the territory. And in Delaware, President Biden spent time outdoors today after speaking to Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu and 6 other world leaders. Mr. Biden also spoke about conflict and peace with Pope Francis. But tonight, it's desperation and war that dominates our coverage. CBS's Charlie D'Agata leads us off from Tel Aviv. Straight ahead here on the CBS Weekend News, still on strike, the latest from actors and studios in Hollywood, and how a small Minnesota town became the masters of the maze. Taylor Swift is keeping the seats filled and popcorn popping at movie theaters across North America. The pop star's Eras Tour concert film added another $31 million in ticket sales, making her the top box office performer for the second straight week. Martin Scorsese's star-studded crime epic Killers of the Flower Moon also impressed in its debut. But these are tough times in Hollywood. Today was day 101 of the crippling strike between actors and studios. CBS's Danya Bacchus is in Los Angeles with more on where negotiations are tonight in the labor standoff. Danya? And mounting. Danya Bacchus, thank you. Still ahead here on the CBS Weekend News, a lot of boom and no bust for Florida's Space Coast.
3, 2, 1, ignition, liftoff.
A SpaceX rocket launch set a new record this weekend. This was the 58th launch this year from Florida's Space Coast. That breaks last year's record, and SpaceX has launched all but 4 of the rockets. This Falcon 9 carried 23 internet satellites into orbit. This weekend, 2 people were killed in a fiery crash on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. This video captured by a passerby. Police say on Saturday, a tanker truck carrying jet fuel slammed into 2 cars on the shoulder. One car had a flat tire and it pulled over. Another car had stopped to help. A milestone of sorts in flight. This week marks 20 years since the Concorde's last commercial flight. Coming up on the CBS Weekend News, winter making an early appearance. We'll show you where next. It's a word that can cause many people to shiver. Snowstorm. This week, millions from the Rockies to the Plains could see up to a foot of snow as a Pacific storm blows in from the west. Let's get a check on the weather threat with Paul Goodloe from our partners at the Weather Channel. Temperatures are really dipping, Paul. Okay, Paul Goodloe, thank you. When we return, how a small Minnesota town became a giant in the maize craze. Finally here tonight, nothing screams fall fun like corn mazes. There are more than 500 created across the country each year. In tonight's Weekend Journal, CBS's John Lauritsen takes us to one of the biggest mazes found in a field in rural Minnesota. And that is the CBS Weekend News for this Sunday. Coming up tonight on 60 Minutes, the first interview with an American finally freed last month after being held hostage in Iran. I'm Maurice DuBois in New York. We thank you so much for watching. Good night.